they were the best team in the NBA last year for sure, and they deserve to win that ring. This year, like you said, they've had a lot of injuries.
Hello and welcome to the Friday, May 7th edition of the TV on Basketball podcast with your host, TV. Hope you're all having a fantastic day and thank you for clicking on to watch or listen to today's episode. The NBA season is winding down. We got one more week till the NBA play-in tournament. But like I said, I'm going to have guests coming on at least once a week on the pod. And today we have another guest for the first time in a while. He runs the account, The Sideline Views. Welcome to the show, Duggan.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so today we're going to be just talking about the account that he runs, The Sideline Views. I'm going to have all of his links down in the description of this video, or you can check out the link tree, which I have linked in the bio of the pod or my Instagram. But yeah, it's going to be a really awesome episode. Just continue to show your support in any way possible. Remember to follow TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for updates on the podcast and for other content. Like, share, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And for all the podcast listeners, remember to show your support in any way possible. But yeah, let's get right into this podcast. We have Duggan here. He runs the account, The Sideline Views, currently just under 8,000 followers on Instagram at the moment, 4 away from 8,000, which is another big milestone for your account over there. How has just been this ride of creating this this Instagram page and kind of like what got you into it?
Yeah, sure, man. So I graduated about 2 years ago from college. And when I was in college, I worked for Overtime, which is like a sports media company. I'm sure, most people listening to this or watching this have heard of Overtime. And I was kind of expecting and kind of in a position to be working for them after I graduated, and kind of things fell through and I didn't end up getting a position with them. But I had kind of always wanted to start my own kind of sports media company. I've always been really passionate about sports media, storytelling, and all of that. And I was sitting in, quarantine like a lot of us were around the world. And I realized that, I was spending a lot of time on my phone, just kind of consuming media, whether it be Instagram or Twitter, or Snapchat, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of them really. And I just thought to myself that, it's worth, if there's going to be a time, if there's going to be a sign, from the universe, if you will, to start something like my own page or my own brand or my own channel, that now is the time. So I started about a year ago this month. So I'm coming up on, being in this for 1 year.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And a lot of guests I had on actually started either their podcasts or their pages a lot. It's in quarantine as well. I mean, obviously it's been tough for all of us, definitely in terms of trying to handle this pandemic, but it's kind of having to make the most of it and just trying to see like what you could do, like best use your time like going forward, especially like during these tough times. Where are you based and kind of like how has like COVID been for you like over this past year?
For sure. I grew up in Newton, Massachusetts, so it's right outside Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it's saying my internet's a little unstable, so hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah,
but I grew up right outside Boston, and when I grew up in Newton my whole life, and come college time, I moved to New York City. I went to NYU, so I was in Manhattan for those 4 years, and then COVID affected me because, I mean, I'm thankful that it hasn't really affected me in a major way, but I did have to move out of the city. I moved from New York back home, so I've been kind of living at home since then. But COVID's been going on for what, like almost a little over a year now, and things are kind of slowly getting back to normal. I'm going to be moving back to New York in August, but
nice.
Yeah, I moved home because of COVID, but other than that, really, just thankful that my friends and my family have been able to stay healthy during these times. I think health is the most important thing that we kind of all took for granted before this whole thing started, and I hope people are staying safe and staying healthy so we can kind of return to normal, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the US. I mean, you guys are getting a bunch of vaccinations. I know like a lot of things have been opening back up. just watching the NFL draft, I believe it was like last week, and like be seeing a lot of people there kind of gives us kind of hope that things are slowly getting back to normal, but people just continue to have to do their part, hopefully, and we can get return to normality some point down the line. You said you based like you were in sports media, you were working for overtime and all that, but let's start at the roots. Like, what got you into sports? Like, when did you start like getting into it, and kind of how has that carried over to you like today?
Sorry, man. Can you just repeat that question? The
Yeah.
Wi-Fi is all choppy over here for some
All
reason.
right.
Sorry, run that
Then
back.
yeah, not a problem. I mean, just like going back to the roots, what like got you like into your love of sports, and kind of like who like what sports do you watch, and like what teams do you like follow and support?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I grew up playing all types of sports. As a young kid, I would play baseball and soccer actually, and then around middle school, I was, taller than most kids. I'm 6'7", so I'm still taller than most people. So I played basketball and volleyball, and then in middle school, I also played football. So I was kind of all over the place. And then in high school, I played football, basketball, and volleyball. I actually stopped playing football after 2 years just because I didn't really want to get injured. It's kind of when I realized I wanted to play volleyball at the next level. And then I played volleyball throughout college. So all 4 years at NYU. It's Division III school, so nothing crazy, but it was a lot of fun. And I've always just been interested in sports, to be honest, like watching sports, playing sports, writing about sports, talking sports with other people. It's always been a passion of mine. And I think it's really cool how, people can connect through sports, right? So like us having this interview and, people throughout the world, sports is kind of, that common denominator, that common language that we all speak.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess my favorite teams at heart, I'm Boston, everything. So Patriots, Red Sox, Celtics, Bruins. And, but I really just like watching the NBA and the NFL in general. If there's an NBA game on, whether it's like just even like last night, Clippers, Raptors, or I think it was Bucks, Nets, like all the NBA, just the NBA is so entertaining to me. All the different players, all the different personalities. I think the NBA, there's really nothing like it. But the NFL is also really fun to watch. I guess I'm a little less interested in sports like the NHL and the MLB, but those are still fun to watch. Kind of come playoff time, I hop on the bandwagon and I have it on. And obviously, like the Olympics this summer will be awesome, and the World Cup's always great to watch. So just really all sports really interest me, and I've always kind of had that passion for sports, and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. So as I kind of continue to build Sideline Views as a brand and as a network, I'm always trying to find like new people to interview, new people to talk to, new sports to kind of follow. So I think that's what makes sports kind of so exciting. There's always a new storyline, and there's always, something going on where it's fun to follow along.
Yeah. And just like looking like through like just like looking at your page, I mean, like we've I think like started like following each other I think a couple months back, and you guys cover like a bunch of sports, whether it's the NBA, baseball, some UFC as well. Like you guys like you cover like a bit of everything, which I like really cool about your page. And I mean, hitting like all those different type of sports and stuff has really like helped like grow your page. And on like honestly like that, and along with like some of the other series that you have, has been like honestly like fun to watch. And like I hope like you got like that you your page continues to grow. Another thing that I've like been noticing about your page ever since I was following you is that you like to integrate like some sort of hip hop like into your thing, like you like whether it's to the birthdays or like just like to your stories, like the music and stuff like that, do it like um how important do you think, especially like in the two like in the sports of basketball and football, like the two sports that you mainly watch, how important, like how is like hip hop kind of integrated themselves there, and like how important is it to those games?
I mean, it's hugely important in my opinion, and I think one of the things about Sideline Views that I try to do is to put sports in this context of culture, right? So when we're thinking about the NBA and the NFL, let's take those two leagues, and I will say that I do try to like diversify all my content. Like you said, I try to throw some baseball in there, some UFC. I throw some hip hop in there, and the reason I do the hip hop and the culture stuff is because to me, there's this huge overlap within culture between sports and music. And whether it's, people like Dame Lillard and Lonzo and, Marvin Bagley, who they rap on the side, right? Andre Drummond, I believe, raps on the side as well. Or when it's the opposite, right? When it's people like J. Cole or people like Drake who just love basketball and they love being at the games and they play in basketball games as well. It's the overlap to me is really interesting, and that's kind of the niche where I'm trying to kind of diving into. I'm doing my best to dive into that niche, that overlap, that intersection of sports and culture. So yeah, it's exciting, and I feel like there are a lot of basketball pages already on Instagram, and there's already a lot of NBA pages, and there's a lot of sports pages. So it's really about finding what makes you unique and finding what's going to make you different and make someone want to follow your page and not feel like, oh, you know what, I already follow a page like that. So that's kind of my long answer to the idea of incorporating hip hop, why I do it.
Yeah, that's definitely like important to do. I mean, like just like thinking about the hit, like the genre of hip hop in general. I mean, there have been so many like relations between that, the NBA, like whether it's in the lyrics, whether it's even like the music you're listening to like during the games. Like it's a lot of like hip hop like influenced like theme. Obviously, the majority of the players there are people of color, African Americans who also like to kind of like bring themselves like with hip hop and stuff like that. So yeah, like that's like I found your page like really interesting when trying to incorporate that. And yeah, you guys should go definitely check it out. Like I said, all his links are gonna be down in the description to see all of his content. Besides that, you started a series, I believe, a couple months back called the Sideline Stories, where you talk to like different athletes of different sports, kind of to see kind of like their journey and kind of how um, they came to be and how they became to be a professional in their sport. So my question is here is like, what made you start to do this, and um, like what joy do you find in just like interviewing people?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that idea of what's going to make my page unique. What's going to make my page,
Mm-hmm.
someone want to follow my page and not just another NBA or Bleacher Report or, Complex or pages like that. And the Sideline Stories is a series that I started in January of this year. So I've been doing one a month for, I'm going to do it for at least this year and see where it gets me. First of all, it's awesome interviewing people. It's great hearing people's stories, asking them questions and asking them kind of about their journey and where you ask them where they think they're going and stuff like that. But for me, it was just about, creating original content, not just creating the NBA recaps, not just creating the throwback highlights of, Allen Iverson, not just creating what other people were doing. So it was about incorporating these stories, which I felt like haven't been necessarily overlooked, but they kind of deserve a little bit more shine, a little bit more attention. And back to what we were saying before, I'm not just, here to interview college basketball players. I want to interview, my first was my childhood best friend who went from playing Division III basketball to being professional in Israel. And then I've interviewed a few other professional athletes in the volleyball and table tennis world. And another kid who was a D1 soccer player, and now he's he's an entrepreneur, and he's working with like an emerging alcohol brand. And tomorrow, actually, I'm going to be interviewing a pretty prominent sports lawyer. So already I'm starting to see some progress with it. It's not easy, but it's exciting. It's something that I enjoy doing. I'm sure you get a lot of joy out of, interviewing people and building up your brand and your network. And I think more than anything, though, it allows me to create, my own series, my own podcast that tells the stories that I find really interesting, and I think they deserve to get out there more. And hopefully, by recording it, editing it, and publishing it, that's what I'm able to do.
Yeah, and like you said, you already have 4 episodes out. You guys should definitely go check it out, and just the diversity that you have by talking about people from different sports, whether it's a former soccer player, like a top 200 table tennis player. You just have talking to people from basically all areas of sports, and just excited to see what is there to come afterwards. But if you had to, like, for the people listening, like, if you had to recommend like one episode that you'd say that would either your favorite or would you just like recommend to someone like out like on the street like who was looking to see this type of content, like which episode like out of the ones so far have you made like would you recommend?
Well, that's a tough question. I've spent, I'm sure you know what it's like to edit a video and how long it takes. Each
Yeah,
video takes me like, I don't keep track, but I would estimate anywhere between like 10 to 15 hours to edit everything by myself.
yeah,
So when you work like that for each episode, you want to make each one your favorite.
yeah,
But I guess I don't know. Yeah, the one I just did with Mudit, he's the top 200 table tennis player. He's got a really cool story. He's got a really interesting story, and he's still like a young kid. He's like 21 years old and
yeah,
still kind of making waves in the table tennis world. So that one's unique. But I also really like the previous ones. The one I did with the D1 soccer player who now is part of an alcohol brand. We talked a lot about why artists and celebrities are getting into the alcohol industry, and you see LeBron, you see Travis Scott, again going back to this like sports and hip hop world. There's that intersection. They're celebrities and they're trying to make money, and it's really interesting to see the business side of these athletes and of these rappers and artists. So I guess I would recommend that someone start at the first one and kind of see the growth,
yeah,
but you can watch them in any order. They're really they're longer form content. We talk a lot about how TikToks and Instagram reels are 30 seconds, 45 seconds long, and the attention span of people just seems to be shrinking these days. These IGTVs are like closer to 7 or 8 minutes, and I still try to keep them under 10, but I really want to tell the full story as much as I can with keeping people engaged.
yeah. And I think that's like especially important, especially like when talking to these athletes, because as fans of these sports, I mean, we usually just look at them as athletes and they're kind of just people kind of playing our favorite sports, but they're still humans. And I think that there's a like a good story to like look behind a lot of these like people who have like worked hard like since the very beginning to try to get where they are. And I think what you're doing there with Sideline Stories is actually like a really cool thing, just trying to get to know these people like on a human level and just trying to like kind of like relate to them. I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
um
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Speaking of kind of hip hop and like going back to kind of hip hop and kind of sports again, um global ambassadors, I think like in the NBA there's only one, and that is for my Toronto Raptors, which is Drake. I mean, it's cool to have a global ambassador. It's a nice to have like kind of that like that mainstay face, like especially someone as big as Drake, kind of not not take away from the basketball players, but kind of be that like that face of the franchise that people recognize to help bring in fans. I mean, do you think like having a global ambassador kind of for each team is a good idea? And do you think you should be having more of these in sports?
Yeah, so say what you want about Drake. What he did for the city of Toronto, like do the Raptors win that ring without Drake? Like, I don't know, that might be a stretch. I mean, maybe they were still the best team that year, but
Yeah,
the energy and the attention and the kind of commitment that Drake brought to Toronto that year when they won that ring, and what was that, 2019?
yeah,
That was like unprecedented. I don't remember the last time someone had, been so much of an influence. I mean, he sits courtside and he's talking shit to the Warriors, and next thing you know, they're talking back, and it's just
yeah,
like Drake is just he's such a big presence and he's so influential. I'm not sure if I completely agree with this idea that he's the only global ambassador. I think there are other artists and there are other celebrities that play that role. So in Los Angeles with the Lakers, you have like Snoop Dogg. Um,
yeah.
what is it?
Oh,
Jack Nicola?
Nicholson,
Who is that?
Jack
Nicholson?
Nicholson.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what I mean by that is kind of like he's actually employed by the team as like and has like the official title of global ambassador. I mean,
Oh,
there
okay,
isn't
okay,
like really
okay.
like
I
that's like
see what you're saying.
yeah, that there's not really like an official title. I mean, like, do you think like more teams should be doing this to kind of like help build their team?
I see what you're saying. I mean, I think it's an advantage because it not only one gets more people involved, but it's just like it's hype, right? People get hyped up about it. I don't know if other teams can afford to slash like have someone as big as Drake. Like Toronto has Drake because that's where he's from. So
Yeah,
yeah, on the Raptors, he's their guy. But I don't know, a team like the Milwaukee Bucks or like the
yeah,
Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm not saying there aren't famous people from those cities because I'm sure there are. but I don't know if there's like a Drake from that city. But let's take the Houston Rockets, for example, right? Travis
Yeah.
Scott, huge fan of the Rockets. He's not the face of the franchise or anything, but I think that there are, yes, the benefits outweigh the, consequences of having a global ambassador, having, a celebrity who's there to help get the fans hype, and it brings back, it brings in that energy, but it also probably brings in business, and it brings in ticket sales and all that stuff. So I like the way that, what Drake does for Toronto, and the idea is that, Toronto is not great this year. They aren't like a top team in the East like they have been in years past. But the idea is that, with someone like Drake there, they can return to that position, because athletes are going to want to go there, because there are people like Drake who make the arenas, sold out and make it an environment they want to play in. So I think yes, I like that, and I think I like the way kind of the game is headed in that sense. I want there to be, as much energy and excitement around these teams as possible.
Yeah, and especially helps with a team like a Toronto Raptors, who in Canada at the very least do not have kind of that same basketball following as teams in the U.S., such as the Miami Heat, who are already one of the biggest franchises. Same thing with the Lakers, hitting with the Celtics. So maybe it will work for like some teams. Obviously, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, it might be kind of hard pressed to find like someone there who wants to like represent them. Same thing with the Oklahoma City Thunder, but definitely it's something that maybe other teams, maybe even a team like a Boston Celtics, and maybe like look at someone like a Mark Wahlberg, who is pretty prominent in that city, to maybe become like some sort of ambassador to them. I think like some teams could benefit from it, but at the same time, like I do agree with your point that, maybe it doesn't work for all teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only time where it wouldn't be good is if it became like some sort of distraction, but I don't really see that happening. I mean, the Thunder, for example, I don't mean to pick on anyone from Oklahoma City, but they're about to have like more first round draft picks in the next 5-6 years, more than any other team, right? So
Yeah.
so their GM Presti, I believe,
Yeah.
he has gone out, and he's gonna have so much young talent coming to that city. So, maybe it's not a celebrity. Maybe it's just, I know Toronto had that one fan who was like, who's the
Nav
lifelong
Bhatia.
fan
Yeah,
under the
Nav
hoop.
Bhatia. Yeah,
Yeah,
Nav Bhatia. Yeah.
that guy's a beast. I love that.
Yeah.
That guy, I love that guy's energy. And you don't need like a famous person. All you need is someone with kind of like a story, and someone, he's a season ticket holder, and I think, what did he sell? He owns car dealerships or
Yeah.
something.
He owns car dealerships here in
Yeah.
Toronto. Yeah.
And that guy's electric. That guy's electric. So more of that
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, not even like maybe not even a famous person, but someone who's like super invested in the team, someone to kind of like help bring kind of that energy. So even for when like the young players do come in, at least like there's some like a lot more excitement in those arenas. I mean, the
Yep.
team like the Thunder gonna have like their future, like their whole futures ahead of them. So especially with these young guys, maybe like have someone just some sort of super fan there to help kind of get them more excited about being there. Yeah, definitely, I definitely see that happening.
For sure.
Yeah, but yeah, we're gonna move on to some NBA talk. Like I said, if you want to check out Sideline Views, the links are in the description of this video, and also in my link tree. We always, every time we have a guest on, we do a segment called Hot, Cold, or Just Right, where if you're hot on, I'm gonna give you a statement, and if you're hot on it, that means you definitely agree with it. If you're cold on it, you don't agree with it, and if you're just right, you're kind of in the middle. And because the playoffs are coming up, we are just basically 2 weeks away from the actual NBA playoffs happening. A lot of this is going to be NBA playoff related. Are you ready?
Ready to go, man. I'm ready.
All right. So the first thing I'm gonna talk about here has to do with the play-in tournament. Over the last few weeks, you've seen some NBA players such as Luka Doncic, such as LeBron James, come out and say that this whole play-in tournament idea is kind of gimmicky. It's not really a good idea. And after playing 72 games this year, and if this continues on, I mean, teams playing 82 games and having another like 2 or 3 games at the end is just kind of a bit much. But what do you think? Are you hot, cold, and just right as the play-in tournament for the play-in tournament being a permanent fixture?
I would actually say I'm cold on that, because, well, first of all, I think that Luka and LeBron are only saying that because their teams are in a position where they might have to be in the play-in games.
Yeah.
But I don't know. when I think about the play-in games, I think about like the March Madness tournament, and it's one game and then you move on. And I guess the play-in games would also just be one game and you move on. But I don't know. For me, I think that the NBA, it's already 8 out of the 15 teams make the playoffs, and I think the best way to do it is just have those top 8 teams, make the playoffs, and the 8 seed plays the 1 seed, and the 7 plays the 2 seed, and so forth. And I'm not huge on this idea that you can be flirting with the 9 and 10 seed and still have a shot. I don't think that a lot of the players like it. I don't know if it's gotten a ton of positive reception from fans. But I guess we'll find out. But personally, right now, I'm cold on it. But yeah.
Okay. Well, let me play devil's advocate, because I think one of the biggest reasons here, obviously, is to kind of help prevent tanking. That has been one of the biggest things that the NBA has tried to kind of fix over the last few years. One of the things that they've done is kind of lower the chances of the number 1, number 2 kind of draft order positions. So the 3 worst teams have about equal chance of the number 1 overall pick. I mean, I guess this was just a way to kind of help encourage tanking teams to kind of maybe not tank, so they can have a chance at the playoffs. But at the same time, I mean, like you said, I mean, it's already like 16 teams, like more than half the teams already make the playoffs. But I guess like the question is, I mean, this is already like gaining more excitement for the teams at the bottom. I mean, do you think that what they're doing here, like, do you think is going to like help? Do you think it's just gonna like have like change the team's perspective on trying to make the playoffs, or do you think like at some point they're gonna be like, you know what? I mean, it's just an 8 seed, right? I mean, we're just gonna end up like getting beat up by the number 1 seed anyway. I mean, do you think that doing this will help at least encourage teams to be a bit more competitive?
I think it could. I think it could help teams become a little bit more competitive, and I see what you're saying. I feel like in general, tanking is. I don't know how big of I think some people are really like anti-tanking and they think it's like a huge problem in the league. I think that there are bigger problems that kind of we should prioritize a little bit more than tanking. But I see how it's not all you know negative or effects or cons to this playing game. There are a few pros, and I think if it would help a team think about, we really don't want to miss the playoffs completely. We really want to strive for that 10 or 9 seed. Then it could be one of the benefits of the play-in tournament.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if I had to choose here, I'd be kind of just right. I mean, there's obviously some pros, some cons. I think it's something that we kind of have to wait on to see like how it does turn out. Maybe it gives like more revenue for these other teams as well. I mean, obviously the NBA is about making money, so that's just kind of like another revenue stream for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we have to wait on, and if it doesn't work out, I mean, it's probably going to be cut in 2 to 3 years, anyways.
100% agree.
Yeah. Next statement. The Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, they've had like one of the roughest seasons out there in terms of, especially just dealing with health, whether it's health and safety protocols, whether it's the health of their 2 stars, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, both missing a significant portion of the season. And a lot of fans are very kind of iffy on their chances going into the playoffs. So, are you hot cold on just right on the Lakers repeating this year, Brendan?
Repeating as NBA champs?
Yes.
I don't know. I'll say just right. At the beginning of the year, I was hot. Beginning of the year, I was hot on it. And the reason was because I had them winning the bubble last year. Like in my bracket, I had Lakers in 6. I had them beating the Bucks, not the Heat, but they were the best team in the NBA last year for sure, and they deserved to win that ring. This year, like you said, they've had a lot of injuries. I'm a big LeBron fan, believe it or not. A lot of people from Boston hate LeBron. I'm someone who just like LeBron to me is, kind of a bigger than basketball kind of figure, and I really respect LeBron. I actually see them probably. I guess I have them losing in the Western Conference Finals. I have them. I think they're going to get a little bit farther than people are saying. First round exit. No, they're not going to be a first round exit team. Maybe that's just trolls on Twitter. But I have them making a run. But if they get to the finals, I have a team from the East beating them. I have either I have the Nets or potentially even the Sixers beating them. I think if they get as far to the finals, then they might, not have what it takes to win it all. And I would say don't sleep on the Clippers this year. The Clippers
Yeah.
have the Clippers really, really, to blow a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets, they have some, playoff redemption to do. So I wouldn't sleep on the Clippers. But no, I don't think the Lakers repeat. So I guess I'm going from just right to cold. I don't think it's happening.
Yeah. It's hard for me because it's kind of like the LeBron James factor is always there. And obviously Anthony Davis is a top 10, top 5 NBA player at his peak. But these injuries are something that you really just can't ignore, especially for someone like Anthony Davis, who's had these injury problems since his days back in New Orleans. And LeBron James, he's only getting older, missing 20 plus games for the first time in his NBA career. I mean, it's something that you can't just gloss over. This is like something real. And he said a couple days ago that these injuries are no joke, and like he's probably not going to be kind of 100% for the rest of his career. So in terms of
I saw that he said that, and that shows how serious it is.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of people are kind of just kind of undervaluing the competition, like kind of in both conferences this year. I mean, obviously in the East, there's the 76ers, Bucks, Nets. In the West, I mean, the Clippers. I'm very big on them. I think they have a really good chance of making the finals this year as well. But in just teams like the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns, who maybe do not seem like finals contenders, maybe because either their experience when it comes to the Phoenix Suns or the Utah Jazz, they've had some past playoff failures. But I think that they're going to give the Lakers a run for the money no matter what. And I think they're just kind of at their most vulnerable this year. I guess like that's the best way to put it. And I think that there's definitely
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I think that it's just going to be definitely a tough road, especially coming off all these injuries going to the finals. So yeah, I'm just cold. But I mean, in the West, you have the Clippers. Who do you think would be like kind of their biggest like competition if they do face the finals in the in the East?
Yeah, so I've really been enjoying watching the Suns and the Jazz ball out this year as well.
Yeah.
The Jazz are just like so efficient on offense. They light it up from three, but then you got the Suns who are just like such a solid crew. You got CP3 doing his thing, Booker, all these guys who have just been having such a good season. I guess I would say that the Clippers' biggest threat outside of the Lakers would be the Suns, would be Phoenix. I don't know. I haven't looked at the standings as of the last couple of days, but are the Suns and the Jazz still the top two teams right now?
Yeah, they actually have the same record, I believe, with the Suns have the tiebreaker. Yeah, so
yeah, it'll be interesting to see in the West. I mean, it's going to come down to who ends up on what side of the bracket, right? So if you have the Suns and the Jazz, if they're on opposite sides of the brackets the whole way down, could they both hold? There's going to be an LA team in the Western Conference Finals. I'm pretty certain about that. I don't think it's going to be Phoenix, Utah in the finals. I'd be shocked. But yeah, playoffs, it's always kind of, different gear. Different players step up, and the young players, the less experienced players, sometimes they get nervous. Look at Giannis. The Bucks haven't done well in the playoffs. I think actually thinking about the East too, the Bucks are a team where I think Giannis makes the leap this year. I think the Bucks potentially make the Eastern Conference Finals based on their matchups.
Yeah, definitely interesting. I mean, there's like so many, like you can make a case for basically 7 or 8 of these teams, and I think that just shows like where like kind of how like good of a place in the league is now, and that there's actually a lot of different competitors. Next statement. Jumping from the West to the East, the Brooklyn Nets. Same thing with the Lakers. They've had a lot of injuries throughout their season, but they haven't really like taken their foot off the gas pedal. Whether it's Kyrie leading the charge, KD, they're still one of the top 2 teams in the East, still playing absolutely fantastic. And we've only seen their full big three with Harden, KD, and Kyrie play together for 7 games. But even with all these injury issues and stuff like that, a lot of people believe that they are still the favorites by far in the East. So are you hot, cold, and just right as the Brooklyn Nets being the by far favorites in the Eastern Conference?
I mean, that word by far is kind of tripping me up a little bit just because the Bucks and the Sixers are really good teams. I mean, as a diehard Celtics fan, this year just doesn't look like our year. That's not to say that in the playoffs, if we're all healthy, we can't make a run. And that's not to say that Miami couldn't make a run either. I mean, they were not the 1 seed last year. I think they were the 4 seed coming out of the East.
Yeah.
They made it all the way to the finals. I'm gonna say I'm just right on them being by far the favorite. I don't wanna give them too much credit. Like you said, injuries have made it so their big three has only been able to play a small amount of games together. I think if the Nets are healthy though, and I think the way that the NBA is set up with 7-game series, a fully healthy Nets team is going to come out of the East.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with that. I'm kind of just right on that too, just because there's always that idea at the back of your mind, like, Kyrie has had his injury issues. Obviously, KD came back from the Achilles injury, so that he's not going to be kind of 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's still like some great competitors out east, whether it's the 76ers, whether it's the Bucks as well. I mean, they're definitely going to have like a tough road going there nonetheless. And I mean, if they're healthy, that's the thing. If they're healthy, they are the best team in basketball. Probably kind of the best 3-man unit we've seen in probably NBA history, having 3 top 12 basically NBA players, arguably. So yeah, I mean, the injuries are definitely still a concern, but the Nets being the by far favorites, yeah, I guess, yeah, by far is just kind of a bit much. So yeah,
Yep.
I'm definitely just right on that. 2 more before we head for the end of this episode. The New York Knicks, 4th seed in the East right now, having a great redemption season. Julius Randle, probably going to win Most Improved and all that. But here's my statement. The New York Knicks will be championship contenders in the next 3 years. Are you hot, cold, or just right on that?
New York Knicks championship competitors in the next 3 years. I'll go. I hate to keep just saying just right. I don't want to count them out because I have seen the energy around New York this year. It's just been different. It's just been different. Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, these guys, Derrick Rose has stepped up in a major way. But they would really have to get like a superstar or two in the off season to become championship competitors, just with the amount of talent in the league. I don't see them getting too far in the playoffs. I'd say they could win a first round matchup. I don't have them getting further than that. Yeah. And that's just because they're inexperienced, right? Like you have guys that they're going to play hard night in and night out. But at the end of the day, the playoffs is where the superstars come alive. Yeah. So, a guy like Julius Randle, who's just been having an insane season, and I hope he does win Most Improved. I think he deserves it. I don't see that the Knicks, to say that in the next 3 years they'll be, in the NBA finals. I don't know if I can commit to that, but at the same time, I don't want to rule them out, because crazier things have happened. They could pick up a star in the off season, or they could have, they could trade or sign someone that really turns the whole team around. But they've had to have a winning record for them has just been such an improvement and such an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah. And it feels like for the first time in forever that the Knicks actually feel like a competent organization, because there have been so many just instances with James Dolan, with like Scott Perry, not even Scott Perry. I mean, their old GM, the whole Phil Jackson era, it just felt like a whole mess throughout most of the 2010s. And now, like at the beginning of the 2020s, it feels like they're starting to turn things around. Julius Randle playing absolutely amazing. And I mean, who knows? Maybe in the next year or two, they prove that they are a competent organization and players actually want to sign there again. People will actually want to go to New York, play in Madison Square Garden, and maybe that is like the new birthplace for a new super team. Who knows? But yeah, it's kind of hard to commit to that. I also am just right on that. But yeah, the Knicks, I mean, they're still one of the biggest markets. I mean, we've seen even the Los Angeles Clippers be able to build like to bring in 2 superstars in like one off season. So that's definitely crazier things have happened. One more statement before I let you go. I think this is very fitting because you are a Boston Celtic fan. Jason Tatum, I mean, this year, probably the best season of his career, 26 points a game, pretty good percentages. Possibly all NBA, who knows? I mean, it really does depend if you want to kind of skip over to the Celtics record and stuff. But I think a lot of people are undervaluing him. and are kind of like, I think he's become slightly underrated because I think he's being too much kind of in like they connect him too much to that Celtics record, and I think that they don't give him credit for how good of a player he is. So, in terms of the statement, Jason Tatum is a top 15 NBA player. Are you hot, cold, or just right on that statement?
I gotta say I'm hot on that.
Yeah.
Because I mean top 10, I think I would go he's probably right around the top 10 or 11th best player in the league. Top 15 though, I'm saying he is definitely top 15. He's had kind of a breakout season. He's had, he had 60 points in a game the other year, in a game the other day, I should say. He's had multiple 40-point games, I think a few 50-point games, but more than just the scoring, he's just, for the most part, been very consistent night in and night out. He's had a few off games or a few little streaks where he's been kind of off his game, but like this man had COVID and like he had to I saw a report he like has to use an inhaler now. Like people cannot forget how COVID treats people differently. And these are professional athletes. These are not everyday people. They have like superhuman bodies, if you will, but COVID is still messing with them. So, right, he's had to use inhalers. He feels like he felt like he was out of shape. He missed a lot of time. And it kind of reminds me of another, Boston sports player who had COVID, which was Cam Newton, right? So this past season, Cam was playing pretty well. He got COVID. And then when he came back, he was never really the same, especially that first game back from COVID. He really couldn't even throw the ball. So it's clear that, COVID has affected these players. So, I mean, if you think about top 10 players in the league, you're probably thinking, I'm sure I'll forget some, but you're thinking like LeBron, you're thinking KD, you're thinking Giannis, Anthony Davis, Luka, Harden, Kawhi, Jokic, Embiid, and like maybe Russ. Dame. So that's your top 10. Cool, fine. He's not necessarily a top 10 player right now, but top 15, I don't know if I can name another 5 after that. I mean, you got Jimmy Butler. There are probably a few other, like, I don't know. There's other good players, but I think Tatum is in that top 15 for sure. So I'm hot on that.
Yeah, I'm also hot on this statement. He has improved every single year he has been in the league. Top 10 in scoring this year, 87% from the free throw line, almost 40% from three. I mean, he is scoring on all levels. He's also improved heavily as a defender as well, like since coming in from Duke. Been loving watching his game. I mean, that 60-point game where you guys actually came down from 32 points against the San Antonio Spurs was probably one of the most insane games of this regular season. So, and I know the Celtics haven't been playing like as good as many people believed, but Jason Tatum has just taken it to a whole new level. And I think you can't discredit that, even though the Celtics record has been bad. Jason Tatum is 100% for me a top 15 NBA player.
100%.
Yeah. But yeah, those are our hot color just right. Let me know down below what you guys think. Do you disagree, agree with us? Let us know down below. I think we're going to end the podcast here. Thank you guys for watching. Brendan, before we head off, I'm going to let you have the floor. Promote whatever you need to promote and just tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, for sure. So on Instagram, our handle is at TheSidelineViews. We're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitter. We're on all the LinkedIn. We're on all the major social media sites. So yeah, follow along and shout us out. Let us know that, you checked out this podcast and it's what brought you there, and connect with us. We're always looking to talk to sports fans, whether it's in the comment section, DM us. We're very, receptive, and we try to be as respond to as many people as we can. But yeah, I think that's all I got. Really appreciate you having me on TV. You got a really good thing going on. I would say keep it up. The grind, the grind never stops. And if you continue to grind hard and you continue to work hard, things will naturally come your way. So the work you've been putting in with the podcast and the whole account has been impressive. So keep it up.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate those kind words. I will have all of his links down in the description, like I mentioned earlier on. And yeah, I think this is where we're going to end today's episode. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Leave a review, subscribe if you're on Apple Podcasts, support in any way if you're listening on any of the other podcast networks. I'll be back on Monday to give my all NBA team. So you should definitely want to subscribe and stuff so you won't miss out on that. Should have a new guest for next week. And yeah, it's just going to be lots of great NBA content coming up for you guys. So hope you guys enjoy it. But yeah, we're going to be signing out. That's Brendan. I'm TV. Hope you all have a fantastic day, guys. Take it easy. Peace.